Hey guys, it's Bando. Apologies. What do I always apologise when I start these videos? I'm sick again. Okay. Get over it. So we have a heresy titled article here over on the Warhammer community page, and I thought I would do a video on this because I've been trying to edit the hour-long video of me building a mortificator, sorry, for my Night Lords, and it's awful. The video's terrible, the footage is awful, and the audio just doesn't add up to anything, so it's not happening. I need an editor and better quality video. So let's do this. So, Legends of the Horus Heresy. Oh, it's for Warhammer 40,000. Oh, cool. It's the rules for the stripped out stuff that they were going to stop using and they put back in for people to use. That's great. Oh, there was me hoping it was going to be a video about, I don't know, something new for the heresy, you know. Legends of the Horus Heresy, could that mean, you know, an exemplary battles for, I don't know, 18 characters who are mentioned in the books, and then you could just kit bash your own special characters for legions that don't have them, because that's what I would have used the title Legends of the Heresy for. You know, here's Tarek Torgadon, who doesn't have a model, and here's the rules for him because he's really cool and funny. No, it's not. It's Warhammer 40,000 pilfering our kits again because their models suck. Well, let's have a look, shall we? Oh, so we got the last Horus Heresy article was also for 40,000, and then we had the pre-orders of the Awful Librarian and the overpriced half of a Marine. This costs almost the same amount of money as a tactical squad. Next. Games. Games Workshop. Special Marines. Troops. Yes, £29 I get 10 Space Marines, but £27 I get half a model. Half a model that can be built from the kit that comes in every tank. Minus the assault cannon, which I'm sure you can find. Whoever's at Games Workshop, whoever's pricing that, needs to lose their job. It really is that simple, because at the end of the day, if you continue to allow that, and some idiot's going to buy it, okay, the worst part about this is some idiot is going to buy that, say how much they love it, and justify to themselves, because they're probably making way more money than most of us, and to them it's an acceptable cost. Okay? And frankly, that's half the problem we have. Okay, I'm not one to, you know, moan about people being rich. If people are rich, congratulations, well done, you've done it, that's the goal for everybody. But whales who go out and buy these things at this sort of price are why Games Workshop then think it's okay to sell them, because they won't have to sell too many. They would have factored in how many they have to sell to cover the cost of the creation of it, the creation of the molds, and then they'll go, cool, how far can we push this up? How far will the community tolerate it? What's the likelihood of us hitting that sales number? And someone will have done that little graph and realised that they'll only have to sell 2 dozen of these or something at £27, and that's well within the rate of whales to do. Oh look, we've got upgrade shoulder pads, limited edition shoulder pads, made to order shoulder pads, yay! All of these should be regularly available. Sure, make them made to order, but they should be regularly available on the website. But here's the best part. That article was released on the 26th of May. We're on the 21st of June. It has been nearly a whole month since we have had a heresy-only article. Just nothing. I know that we're not as big as 40k, and it's 40k's time in the limelight because you've got the release of 10th edition and everything. But that's supposed to be Games Workshop. And the Heresy is looked after by Specialist Games, which is supposed to be a separate department. So why have we not even had a hobby article? Why has there not been some PDF rules? Why has there not been anything? I, as a consumer, do not like how little support my product is getting. I don't care about 40,000 because it's not a game I play. I don't care that they are currently having a 10th edition. I don't care that it has a bigger player base. Premier League football has a bigger player base than any hobby I'm in, yet I don't care about it. It impacts me 0% in my life. It's worth more money than anything I do. It's worth more money than any hobby I'm in does. But I don't care about it. So, I want my hobby to be represented to me. I should not have to go to people like the Panoptica people or the Liba Badab, or there's the other one who I can never remember their name, and it really annoys me because they were there first. Mourneville, the Mourneville rules, guys. I shouldn't have to go to those guys for my rules. I shouldn't have to go to them for my new content. I shouldn't have to be on Instagram looking at people creating new artwork or looking for short stories written by fans. Because that's what I'm paying this company for. So what's happening now instead is I'm going to other places. I'm looking at Forge World East to get my parts because I know they'll be in stock. I know they'll have what I want. They won't be end-of-lifing the stuff I need. We are very, very quickly approaching a point in time where Games Workshop is irrelevant as a company. Very close. Because companies out there can make better rules, more positive, healthy environments where the rules are not changed arbitrarily just to make you buy new rulebooks, where rules are released equally across factions, where rules are made with actual gameplay in mind. They are not made to sell models and then nerfed when everyone has already bought the models. Miniature producers. I am seeing more and more third-party bits that are compatible with this hobby. I'm seeing more 3D prints every day. Better quality, better value. Again, £29 for a box of Space Marines, whereas I can get probably the exact equivalent. 10 men, 10 poses, arms, weapons, all of the little accessories, dozens of shoulder pad designs, dozens of head designs, £11 for the 3D print. Or I can get them printed through a third-party company who will do all the hard work for me for £20, £25 for a squad. And they will give me exactly what I want. There's none of this oh man, I really don't want to buy this because this box set comes with, a half a dozen bolt pistols and I need half a dozen plasma pistols. Well, instead I just go, hey, yeah, can you do me half a dozen plasma pistols instead in either hand, because that's the other bit, I want this librarian, which is an awful model, but I'd rather he was, holding a pistol in this hand, or he didn't have an axe or a sword with it. I can get that in 3D printing a lot easier. Games Workshop and all companies exist to facilitate the acquisition of a product by a person who cannot create that product themselves. This is why things like the music industry existed, because the music industry back in the 20th century had access to recording equipment, which was very expensive. They had distribution rights, they had access to the radio stations, so you as a musician could pay someone to record your music and then distribute it for you to a nationwide audience. Something that you as a private individual most likely could not afford. Exactly the same for the film industry, and that is not the case in 2023. We have the ability in our pockets to dwarf that industry at our fingertips. And the same is true for the hobby now. There are half a dozen paint ranges that I can think of off the top of my head. Beyond Citadel, Vallejo, MiG, the new TT Combat, Scale 75, Army Painter, Coat d'Arms. So I don't need Citadel paints. Brushes, I do not want. Games Workshop's brushes. Their spray paints I don't need. Their varnishes I don't need. Their tools I don't need, because they are all serviced by different companies, generally at a cheaper price. Their models, I no longer am limited to Games Workshop model. This is not 1998. I do not have the differences, I do not have Games Workshop versus people like Urban Mammoth, where the sculpting difference is astronomical. No, I now have many companies making models which are better quality than Games Workshop, despite what Games Workshop's propaganda department will desperately try to tell you. Cost. Other companies can produce their models cheaper. Games Workshop no longer has the monopoly on plastic injection moulding for miniatures, and I can easily get access to models cheaper. I want to start a militia army. The militia army I want to do is very heavily inspired by the Helgen from the Killzone games, and if I want to get the Death Krieg, I want to use these guys, and I don't want to use the resin ones because they're too expensive, so I want to use the veteran guardsmen. These guys, they're over £30 a box for 10 men. My basic troop choice is 20 of these, so I'm going to have to spend £120 for my basic minimum troop requirement. Or I can go to War Games Atlantic and buy models from them, or anyone else, for quite possibly even as low as a third of the price. Oh no, I won't be able to play in a Games Workshop store or at Games Workshop tournaments. Spoiler alert, I don't play at Games Workshop stores or at Games Workshop tournaments. I can count on one hand the number of times I've been into a Games Workshop store in the last 5 years. No thanks, I will avoid those like the plague. If I want to buy tanks, the Astra Militarum tanks, they are under heavy support, aren't they? Lehman Russ battle tank, £33. I can get something printed with every single turret and option, with holes made for magnetising, for probably still a third less than that. Okay? And that's a kit that has not changed much since its initial release. The initial release of this model had, an extra bit on the side, It had like a box that would come out. It had a giant square hunter-killer missile. This was slightly different in its design, and the tracks were different, and it had runner wheels. There were a few differences here and there, like the hatch on the back could open. And you didn't have a plastic guy in the top. You got a metal guy instead. So this model has only had minor cosmetic changes since its release in like 1997. The price, however, has gone up every single year. So Games Workshop is clearly not providing a product I want, and now I have access to products from somewhere else. I've got access to paints, I've got access to rules. So what exactly do I need Games Workshop for? Games Workshop has got themselves into the very similar situation to Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons as a brand has got so large and has spawned so many knockoffs that when Wizards of the Coast recently managed to piss off their community a little, it saw huge numbers of people jump ship. It saw large numbers of people who made third-party apps and books and models all swear off ever making products compatible with Dungeons and Dragons ever again. Which means Wizards of the Coast now desperately needs to hide the fact there are other tabletop games in existence, or pen and paper roleplay games in existence, because people like Pathfinder have mentioned how the number of books they've sold in the last couple of months has skyrocketed. Games Workshop's the same. That's why they call it the Warhammer hobby, not tabletop wargaming anymore. They don't want you to know there are other games out there. They don't want you to know that you can play different universes, you can play different historical games, unless you want to be called a Nazi. You can play space games, you can play Star Wars, you can play Star Trek, you can play card-based games, you can play board games based on video games like Resident Evil or Metal Gear Solid or Dark Souls. You can play classic dungeon crawlers. You can play remade classic games from the 80s like Hero Quest, which I really still want to get a copy of. So yeah, we haven't, as a hobby, had an update in a while. That won't kill the hobby. Look at Blood Bowl. Blood Bowl, I would say quite easily, has the largest, no, not largest, the most dedicated fan base out there for any Warhammer-based game. Blood Bowl did not get support for a long time, and the community just kept it going. They made their own rules, they made their own tournaments, they produced their own equipment, and it spawned spin-off games. It, survived on its own, and Games Workshop eventually was like, oh wow, loads of people still play Blood Bowl, and they released a new version of it. You have, to a lesser extent, the same situation with games like Battlefleet Gothic, Epic, Mordheim, Inquisitor. If you want to have a good time, go look up Inquisitor 28 or INQ 28, which is a 28mm conversion of the Inquisitor game, because Inquisitor was originally a 54mm scale game, which is obviously double what we would normally play. Space Marines being about 70 odd millimeters tall in total. They were huge. Completely failed because Games Workshop didn't take into account that nobody has room for 54mm terrain. But now people are playing it 28mm, and you'll see some of the most wacky, amazing conversions you've ever seen. If you like John Blanche's artwork, you will love Inquisitor 28. That spawned its own, another spin-off game, which I can't for the life of me think of right now. Turnip 28, which is a really cool looking game as well. I'm going to see if I can find that for you quickly. Because this is really interesting. Oh, this is a Patreon link. Yeah. Go away. Which is this really cool kind of Terry Gilliam-esque Napoleonic meets medieval kind of aesthetic to it. So if you like your grimdarky kind of stuff, Turnip 28 is really cool. And it's got that real kind of early Games Workshop feel to the artwork. And then the models, it's all like fungus and plants infecting people. It's cool. And because there's no miniatures being produced, they're all making their own stuff. They're using a lot of Perry Twins models. Yeah, really, really cool. And then Inquisitor 28, you got guys, if you've played things like Mordheim. Oh, no. Anything that's kind of 40k-ish, it's all in there. It's got some really cool, let your creativity go absolutely mad. This isn't supported by Games Workshop in any way, shape or form. Yet people are building fantastic models, really interesting warbands, and just some of the best creativity you'll ever see. And they also have 28, which is a magazine that is released full of articles and some fantastic artwork, pictures, you know, photos, model kits, conversion guides, painting guides, all sorts. So what am I getting to? You know, beating around the bush over and over again. Games Workshop is going to lose this. This is not a game of chicken you want to play. They should work harder towards catering towards the community. They need to learn how to communicate with us, because at the moment Games Workshop talks to us. They give us updates. They do not take any sort of updates back from us. And if they did, maybe they would see that these sorts of articles are not as popular and should most definitely not be labelled as heresy articles. Give us something. It's been a month. Right. I'm going to need to go and make a cup of tea or something because my throat's now killing me. Right, guys. My name is Bando. This is Brexit Bando. I'm sorry that I'm so miserable all the time. That being said, I did get a really nice message the other day. I won't name the guy and I'll paraphrase, but he said that, you know, I was one of the channels out there that actually kind of kept him going, kept him interested. And that was really nice and actually made me feel really sort of a bit better than I felt in the last couple of days being run down. So thanks for that message. And the rest of you guys, if you want to, you know, send me messages, feel free. It's probably easiest to do it on Instagram. The link will be below. If you like these stuff, drop me a comment. I love the comments. I love, you know, I try to respond to every single one of them. YouTube takes a while sometimes to tell you there's a new comment, so maybe a day or two. If you have questions, just ask them. If you've got requests, you know, you want me to see me talk about something, if you want me to, you know, what my thoughts on a certain subject, ask me. Because trust me coming up with ideas for making videos is a lot harder than it looks. Okay, guys. As always, hit subscribe, hit the like button, whatever. My name is Bando. This is Brexit Bando. Have a great hobby.